Oliver, you may go ahead.
Please.
We hear you now.
Okay. Hi once again, and I'd like to.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Oliver, we can't hear you. I think hopefully we'll be able to hear from you soon when you are able to join us. When I think it could be a connectivity issue, it sounds like it. So just to introduce our topic, to create a learning culture, really, I think we've spent the bulk of the sessions hearing about how things have transformed, and digitally it has really taken over our lives and has also taken over, our work lives, which is not an exception. And so research shown that to create an effective learning culture, organizations need to focus on hiring curious minds, rewarding continuous learning, and giving meaningful and constructive feedback. Learning to adapt continuously as an organization is quite critical, and it proves an organization and enables an organization to actually succeed. So in this session, we would really like to explore the concepts of individual. And when we say individual, we mean ownership in the supporting environment, the team, meaning the social learning and dialogue around the team, and organizational learning in terms of the structures and the systems that help to build a learning culture. So some really practical things, as some of you are looking forward to hearing about, in terms of how do we really inculcate a culture of learning in this fast-moving pace. So I'd like to firstly introduce our first panelist, Charlotte Mokoena. Charlotte is an Executive Vice President of Human Resources and Stakeholder Relations at Sasol. Charlotte's remarkable career really spans across various industries, portfolios, and even traditional silos that often lead to a disconnect, between employees, stakeholders, cultures, business objectives. And she's really been at the center of pulling all those together and contributing to a thriving organization. She has extensive experience in organizational culture, HR management, leadership development, stakeholder relations, corporate reputation and management, customer experience and management, corporate and social impact, organizational capability development, and management consulting, as well as the not-for-profit sectors. Her colleagues see her as someone who's very inspiring, who is accessible, and who always creates a culture that enables others to thrive and really grow in their respective fields. She is a lifelong learning, and what you'll notice from both of our panelists today, they share a very common value of lifelong learning. While building their careers, they continue to learn and progress academically as well. Charlotte, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much. That's really generous. Thank you, Abigail. I just want to ask whether you can hear me, and which is more important than seeing me. Thank you, Dr. Hannah. I appreciate the feedback. And let me do a test of whether you can see my slides now that you can see me. Let me start with slide one. Have I remained on the program? Have I remained on the platform?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I'm going to take a perspective where I will share
We can't see your slides.
You can't see my slides?
We can't see your slides, but we can see you.
You can see me. Okay. Let me go back to the platform, and then I will minimize the slide, and then you can guide me through how I actually upload my slides into your platform. Close stage. Abigail, do you have a way in which you can guide me to upload the slides? Because I know that if I was in another one, I would click somewhere. I'm not sure about it.
Yes, you can click on present.
Okay, let me just find it. Is it in the floor or
on your left-hand side? Oh, sorry, on your right-hand side, just below your camera. You can click on present.
Okay, let me find the camera then. I'll close the discussions. Oh, there we go. Found it. Okay, good. I need to share. Apologies for the tutorial. Application window. Okay. Okay. I'm going to continue now and walk you through my talk while I try to navigate how to find. I'm going to close the screen.
So you still can't see your presentation?
I still can't see my presentation on here, and I don't know if you can see it. But let me try one more time, and I apologize for that. Let me see if I can go to. Okay.
What we can do, Sis Charlotte, we can move to Dr. Hannah Gore and then help you with your slides and then come back to you. Would that be okay?
Okay, let me go back, and I will wait. Apologies for that. Good, let me do.
No problem at all. No problem.
Okay.
Dr. Hannah, can I go ahead and introduce you?
Yes.
And you can start with your talk and we'll go back to Sis Charlotte.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Hannah Gore. She is a Learning and Experience Director of the Canonbury Consulting Group, which is an organization that she has founded. She has more than 20 years experience in learning and development, and this spans across face-to-face, online, and blended learning. Dr. Hannah Gore has led innovations in public and private sectors. She's gone from leading a business school of 93 countries to create content for circa 10 million global learners for the Open University, such as iTunes, Amazon, Kindle, and YouTube, just to name a few. As I mentioned earlier, both the ladies joining me in this session are really advocates for lifelong learning, and she has completed her entire academic studies online from graduate to doctorate while advancing her career. Dr. Hannah, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to switch off my camera to save some bandwidth, just in case. And let me them all okay?
Yes, now it's perfect.
Perfect. Great.
Please give Dr. Hannah a thumbs up if you can see her slides.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. As Abigail said, I'm Dr. Hannah Gore, and I have been working for 20 years now in learning and development, specifically in the last few years, developing learning cultures for companies. And today I wanted to talk to you about, obviously, learning cultures. So what is a learning culture? It is a phrase that is bandied around quite a lot, and we really need to understand it at the absolute heart. So we find ourselves in a world where educational resources are being cut prior to people coming into the workplace, but employees want the best of the best. So this puts us into a bit of a paradox and a predicament. And with the growth of AI, machine learning, bots, especially in the Western hemispheres, we're actually seeing the work of many people being replaced. And that then grows an additional issue in which how over the next was discussed in the opening session with Tom, white papers are constantly being produced. LinkedIn produces so many, and I read so many of theirs, talking about skills gaps in the workforce and also with workforce entrance as well. So we have a problem not only with people coming into the workforce, but also people already inside the workforce. And likewise, organizations are changing drastically internally. Put COVID to one side, organizations are changing rapidly. Put COVID into the mix, they are now being accelerated. They have much flatter structures, greater connectivity, increased collaboration. There are thinner organizational walls as well. There's a much higher growth now of the gig economy, which is also something that Ed alluded to earlier, where we're working more with skills rather than time with people. Work is done now much more flexibly, and there's fewer concrete career paths. So the job for life situation has gone. In my lifetime and in my career, I have done so many jobs that I couldn't even fathom have been able to do when I was at school and talking to a careers advisor. So we're in this world now where structures and job requirements are changing constantly, and L&D is forced to do a rethink. And where that rethink comes is about customizing to the specific challenges of your organization. It's very easy to come to a lot of conferences and go, oh, this worked for Vodafone, it's going to work for me. And that's not necessarily the case. You've really got to know your organization, because your learning culture has to be integrated throughout your company for it to be successful. And that is how you're going to grow your strategy. So the question is, of course, why do we need one? We're all talking that we need one, but why do we need one? We said L&D can make a company and bad L&D can break a company. I absolutely fundamentally stand by that. You can have fantastic companies, but if they don't have a strong learning culture, they will not adapt within their industry and their organization, and they will fail. And so a strong learning culture can ensure success and growth as well for the organization as well as for the employees. This is not just about the organization, but the employees within as well. And where organizations are rapidly growing and developing all around us, it's really important to adapt to industry surroundings. And most importantly, to continue with methods that were previously successful. In an ever-changing world, and the last 6 months have shown us how rapidly a world can change, will not ensure the success of either L&D in the company, L&D as an industry, or your own organization's future or industry as a whole. So as business evolves, we have to evolve also. So the big question is then, of course, how do I get one? Unfortunately, there is no off-the-shelf kind of in-the-box package here. It is something that takes time, persistence, a lot of hard work, some blood, sweat and tears. But number one step to get your company over the start line is to put you in the running. And I am a big advocate about putting ourselves first. Now, I don't necessarily just mean that we need to develop ourselves with L&D knowledge here. I'm talking as well that we have to develop ourselves in having business knowledge. So as Abigail alluded, I have always studied alongside my work. All my qualifications are business apart from my doctorate, which is in education. To me, has helped me be successful in what I do. So I think it's ever so important that you identify within yourselves the types of skills and knowledge that you need to understand your organization and people more. It's getting to know business procedures, operational procedures, marketing, conflict and negotiation skills, pitching skills, presentation skills. These are not things that necessarily L&D people have, as normally think about L&D skills and on an L&D, but I'm actually suggesting that we get really strong business skills for survival. And learning cultures are proactive and not reactive. So the number one step is to get your company's 5-year plan. It could be even a 12-month plan right now. Take it apart, understand how it's been put together, the types of targets that your companies are actually looking for, how they actually want to grow as an organization, and work out where the gaps are, how to talk to the business managers about their missions, their objectives, what they need to get that mission across the finish line. And the most important thing to understand is that learning cultures are not grown in annual appraisals. This is not a once-a-year discussion. This is an every single day discussion. And so we need to constantly be growing this culture. And the benefits are incredible. The previous company that I worked with the 93 countries, a business school in 93 countries across 37 companies of a holdings company, their mission was to deliver double-digit growth. My job was to deliver that double-digit growth. It wasn't about how many people could I get in training, how many courses could I provide, how many hours of learning. It was about getting double-digit growth in 93 countries. So learning cultures can impact heavily on organizational culture. You can increase talent attraction in the company. You can increase talent development, which leads to employee satisfaction. That is fundamentally crucial to the success of a company, because employee satisfaction can lead to work output in increasing in efficiency, but also innovation, business developments, customer satisfaction, and of course, profitability. And they raise the profile of L&D across the board, not just within an organization. But there's always barriers. And I've come across the two main barriers where you'll always get is time and busy. Now, they're exactly the same barrier in my book, but some people say I'm too busy or I don't have the time. The type of people that say this to you are the type of people that have never been in an organization with a strong learning culture before. And so you have to expose them to a world that could actually be different if they had a strong learning culture. If a manager is too busy to help develop their team, then they'll find themselves too busy to correct the outcomes of an underperforming team that is in need of training. So very much as Ed said before, taking 2 days out of somebody's time to develop an entire company that will benefit a company as a whole is strong learning culture. Saying no to 2 days is bad for learning culture. And so you have to develop the community as a whole. Again, it comes back to it can't be done annually. So this is where, in embedding it, your skills that I talked about previously come into full use. So this is where your business negotiation skills, communication skills, conflict resolution, presentations and pitching skills will come into play in understanding the business strategy, how every single department works within your organization. I did say it takes time. And working with a bottom-up strategy as well as a top-down one. Yes, CEOs are saying we need a learning culture, but so many of them don't understand what that actually really means. Having learning available is not a learning culture. Having a learning culture means I'm not afraid to look at something, ask for help, search for something, spend time, even if it's 5 minutes learning to do my job better. I am not held back in any way to learn is a learning culture. So we have to have a bottom-up strategy as well as a top-down one. And so you have to spend time working with department managers, employees, as well as board managers to develop a strategy that can be built on, but importantly is fluid to move with an organization. So as departments and business managers and skills change, you need to be able to change with them and remain constantly fluid. So that is a very quick run through of how it will actually work. I'm more than happy to take questions in the session. Also as well, please, if you don't have time to have your question answered, please track me down. I'm very easy to socially stalk online. Drop me a message in LinkedIn and I'm more than happy to answer individually if we can't cover your question today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hannah Gore. I'd like to hand over to Oliver before we go to Charlotte.
Hi, Abigail. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for choosing this session. I hope you're picking up some things already. My name is Oliver. I work with Rainbow Consult, a consulting firm based in Accra, Ghana, and I'll be supporting Abigail in moderating the session today. Thank you. Back to you, Abigail.
Thank you, Oliver. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that my co-pilot is not someone I made up and he's really, really in the room. So I'd like to hand over to our next speaker, Dr. Charlotte, and after she has spoken, we will then go into the questions and answers and have an interactive session. I do encourage you to keep posting your questions. Please, you don't have to wait till the end. We are noting them as we go through the session. We will just open up the floor for discussions after Charlotte's presentation. So Charlotte, over to you.
Thank you very much. Just want to say that this has been a very effective. Can you hear me now? Camera
yes,
off.
We hear you.
Okay, can you see me though? That's okay.
Can we give Sasol a thumbs up? I think I have a slight delay on my side. I will be seeing you shortly.
That's fine. I don't see myself, which is a great thing. Thank you very much. And I just want to say to Abigail, big ups to you for being such an excellent tutor. And this platform is really an amazing platform for what you're achieving. And I'm going to share with you something of a personal learning experience. And let me start with telling you the role of L&D and L&D practitioners in culture change. In 2002, when I took over as the Group Executive for Learning, which is a Chief Learning Officer for Telkom South Africa, the one thing I said to the L&D practitioners, there were about 700 people in the L&D organization, I said the L&D practitioner is actually a culture catalyst. If you think about anybody else outside of the leadership cohort that is able to impact the content and the processes of an organization, is a learning and development practitioner. And I said to them, every time when people pitch up a training, sometimes they start by asking questions, and it is always a safe space. There is no performance consulting, performance reviews. There's no development planning. There's no feedback on anything. It is a very safe space. So often some things that are not said on the work desk, at the workplace, in the work ecosystem, are said in the learning ecosystem. So I'd like the L&D practitioners and leaders to remember that we've got a very powerful role to play in being a catalyst for culture change in the organization. I'm going to present now, presenting, and I'm going to go and look for my slides. Let me see, application window. Okay, I'll go here and try. Can you see the slide now? You cannot see the slide.
So Charlotte, let me just see. Please indicate in the chat box if you can see the slide. Not yet.
Okay, that's fine.
I think there is also a slight delay.
I haven't even started.
Oh, please share again. Apologies for that.
Fine. It's showing. Okay, that's fine. It just keeps disappearing from my.
Are you still with us? So Charlotte, are you still with us? Are you still with us, Charlotte? I'm still here. Okay. We can only see Dr. Gore. I think everybody can only see Dr. Gore. Can we? Dr. Gore, sorry, can we just make sure you have stopped sharing your slides on your side?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Okay.
I'll drop that video and come back in case that helps.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to continue in the interest of time, and I'm going to try. If I don't see my slides, then I'm not going to worry myself again with those slides. Okay.
Okay. We see you now, though, so please do try again. Thank you.
That's fine. I cannot see the slides. It's okay. I'm not going to continue with the slides. I'm going to speak. And I send them to you as Plan B. So I'm going to speak.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, I think we are working in a very. I just want to remind you that I work for a corporation where they do actually make sure that you have lots of firewalls that material doesn't leave the organization. So it might be one of those. We live in a new world, but we live in a new world with the same people. And my camera is on, but I see Dr. Gore. My camera is on, but I hope you can see me. Can you see me, Abigail? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we still see Dr. Gore.
Yeah, I see Dr. Gore too.
We see you now.
You see me now. I think I'm gonna leave it at here. Okay. We live in a new world, but we live in a new world with the same people. So some of the things that are important for us now is that in the world that we're in, there has been great personal impact. There's a study in New Zealand that actually I read about this morning, that people have, New Zealand was able to contain the pandemic, but one of the things that came out of it is the mental distress, that it has gone high. And you also have got some reports in my own country as well, in South Africa. The workplaces have been impacted. For instance, where I work, where in the building that I'm in, we have 3,000 employees, but 90% of them are working from home since the lockdown started in South Africa in March. So we have actually changed radically the way we work. The work, what you call homework, is also very, very redefined and changed. So ways of working and ways of being at home is redefined. Family dynamics have changed. There are lots of studies that are showing us what has been the impact. Social spaces are small, so we're contained in our homes or in our workplaces, but we actually are boundaryless. For instance, we are here now, but we have people across the world. Even if I'm alone in this room where I am in my office, I am connected to all of you globally. I'm not going to talk about technology lips. I think we heard about it this morning. That I'm using this platform for the first time, but my knowledge and my use of technology and even troubleshooting all by myself at home has actually changed. One of the things that happened with us staying in our homes during lockdown is that when the social justice movement started, that was ignited. It has been going on, but it was ignited to a global level with the incident of the death of Mr. Floyd. We all had to experience it firsthand, sitting in our homes, and we all participated. So that changed ways in which we perceive society and ways in which we perceive work and we perceive our lives and the purpose. So the topic today says creating a learning culture. And the question is why? Why do you want to create a learning culture? The question is what's broken? I think when you look in our organization, what needs change? What needs readjusting? What is it in the organization and the teaming and the work styles creates a need for something that needs to be fixed, to be changed, to be rearranged? And that is the most important question. I think if we do not remember anything what I'm going to say in the next three more slides, we need to remember when you go back to our organizations, look around in creating a learning culture. The question is, what is broken? And we need to make data-driven decisions. One of the things that are important about culture, it might feel like it's intangible. It's actually quite tangible. A lot of times when we do work around changing culture and making organizations have a learning culture, we need to show what it will do, and we need to show where it's not working and what happens when it's not working. That brings realism in the organization of, first of all, where do you need to start and what is the requirement? Solutioning has to be responsive. It has to happen immediately, and people have to feel that what has been presented in changing the culture of the organization towards learning is responding to what they need. The learning processes have to be effective, which is either the learning experience platforms or the learning management platforms, whether they are live or they're digital or they're blended. They have to be very effective, and they have to make sure that they impact learning. And the other thing about impact realization is that learning has to be relevant. If it doesn't solve what is required by individuals, and it doesn't solve what is required by organization, and it's not socially responsive and it's not socially relevant, people lose the purpose of learning. Learning has to be transformative. And so when we create a learning culture, we need to actually look at all of those. There is a quote by the Chief Learning Officer at Procter & Gamble, Anne Skolter. And Anne said, to help our people learn faster, we are disrupting how we manage learning and development to be more focused on immediate business context and make learning personalized, provide easy access, support, and provide performance aids, carefully curated training. It must be relevant. It must be directly applied to work. So it says, learning fast, disrupt how we learn, personalize, immediate business context, provide easy access, performance support aids, carefully curated training, relevant and directly applied to work today. So if it doesn't solve those, some or all of those, then it might be disconnected in terms of the culture of learning that has to be created. There are three things that I'm going to share with you as a case study. I learn all the time. One of the things that I really find fascinating is when I join a group of learning ecosystem or a learning community, and it resonates with me personally. If it doesn't, I always don't take the learning out. So one of the things about a learning culture is that we need to be very clear on three things. The intended outcome and business case, it must be compelling. Why do we want to change the learning culture? The second one is that there has to be community that curates the content, and the deliverer and the faculty have to understand the ecosystem of learning. That's the second one, around the ecosystem and the community of learning. The last one is relevance and impact. So when you look at the intended outcome, I'm going to give you an example. I've just finished a coaching course with the Beckley Executive Coaching Institute. This is the third program. So in the interest of not spoiling my relationships with others, I'm not going to mention the other two coaching programs I've attended. In the course that I went to, I first had to understand my own personal intended outcome and match it with the intended outcome of the program. The business case was clear. I needed to create a culture of coaching in the organization. So for me to attend that program, I was in sync with the CEO, who is my direct manager, in the fact that I needed to go back and look at ways of creating a coaching culture in the company. So the business case was there. The intended outcome for me and the intended outcome of the course had matched. Then I went into the learning ecosystem. There were 26 people that were in the course learning, but one of the most diverse delivery systems, diverse delivery faculty that I've ever seen. The way we were learning as we go, and it was embedded in what we did. So we would have a short program of 10 minutes that all of us are going through, much like what we're doing now. But inside that big cohort of 26 people that I'm part of, that were learning cohort, there were communities that were created of people that had similar processes. I have a coaching support mechanism now. I have a Valerie, and I have the rest of the faculty that are available for me from the time I took the course on the 20th of October all the way to April to support my learning process. And that way, they've created a learning ecosystem of the cohort, of my fellow learners, and the faculty to make sure that I go through the learning. In that way, my learning style, diverse as it is from everybody, has been taken care of. The other one is relevance and impact. When they asked me why am I there, for myself, and I said I wanted to be a leader that impacts society and the society where I work. The purpose of my company is innovating for a better world. What way would I be contributing to making a better world where I work if I don't have relevance and impact in what I do? So earlier we had how learning has to change lives and how it has to lead to personal transformation. So three things in creating a learning culture. What is the intended outcome in the business case? What is the community and the ecosystem of learning? Does it have relevance and impact? In that way, we'll be catalysts for change, to move from training for training's sake, learning for learning's sake, to learning where it will move certain dials for individuals, move certain dials for the organization, and move certain dials for society. And the last one is going back to creating a learning culture. Where do you start? Ask what is broken, identify the data, create responsive solutions, make sure that the learning process is supportive, and impact realization. And those are the ways in which you can start and be a catalyst for culture change. And that will be the change of the culture of learning that impacts the organization, impacts individuals, and impacts society. All in one, happens at the same time, creates ecosystems that sustains the learning. I'll stop at that and maybe get into an interactive process and take questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow. Thank you very, very much. And apologies with that technical glitch that we couldn't get your slides going, but I think the message was so loud and clear in how, we need to be so relevant. And, it stuck to my mind, what is broken? Because unless we're clear about what is broken, we actually won't solve for what we are trying to solve for. We have about 5 minutes before we have to go back to the main plenary. So I will hand over to Oliver and see what is in our chat box. Any questions and comments, please.
Thank you, Abigail. And we have one question from John Opata. Apologies if I didn't pronounce that correctly. And John wants to know some key focus points to developing a learning culture. And yes, Abigail, for now, that was the only question that was captured.
Some key points. Thank you, Oliver. So I would like to take Dr. Hannah Gore, 2 key points to creating a learning culture, and Sis Charlotte, 2 key points, your top 2 key.
Okay, my top 2 key points are, firstly, is understand where your organization is going. As I spoke about in the presentation, knowing a 5-year strategy, a 1-year strategy, the skills gaps, etc. Understanding where your organization wants to be compared to where it's at is crucial to even starting a learning culture discussion. And the second point that I also iterate to my slides is developing yourself. Having the world's best L&D knowledge makes you fantastic in our field, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually talk well with business managers, market leaders, CEOs, etc. You need to be able to talk their language. To talk their language, you have to study business skills. So I would suggest develop yourself. You cannot blaze a trail if we're at the back of the queue. So put yourself forward, develop the learning culture within yourselves, and then progress forward.
Absolutely. For me, it's 2 things. One, connect with why you need to change the learning culture in the organization. That's the first reason. What is broken? Where are you moving from and to? The second thing is that create an ecosystem, and those are your catalysts for change. These are leaders, HR, line managers, potential learners, external support systems, internal support systems. Galvanize that energy internally. That is going to create an ecosystem for you to intervene. Remember, you are going to have to intervene because you are a catalyst for culture change.
Wow, great. From my side, I'm wondering, and maybe each of you can also answer the question, what does success look like? When we say we've created a learning culture, what does it look like?
It is a question that gets asked, I think, probably the most. How do I measure this? Like, it's the first thing everyone talks about. And you measure it in a number of different ways. When, for example, staff feel that they can actually develop themselves without feeling afraid to ask, without having to have it as an annual appraisal conversation, without having to see it as a nice to have rather than a need to have, when everybody is behind it, that's when you know it's working. For me, when I worked in the last company, when I first came in, they had no L&D provision at all. They saw me as very much a nice to have rather than a need to have. I was brought in by the CEO. By the time I left that company, because COVID, of course, changed the world, it got to the point where I had VPs explaining to me in boardrooms what they thought disruptive innovation meant, what they thought flipped classroom meant, what blended learning meant. But also when I had regional directors turn to me in board meetings and go, we're developing a new product. It's going to be launched in Germany next month. Hannah, what can we do? How do we get our staff up to speed? And when they turn to you and they need you, not think this is a person that develops nice things, that's when it's actually working.
Absolutely. I just want to take what Dr. Gore has just said, which is phenomenal. One of the ways in which, as an L&D practitioner, you need to measure whether you have changed the culture. And I have seen it over and over again in my work, and in HR as well, in stakeholder relations and in customer experience and in learning, is when they begin to use your language. When you hear an executive vice president who manages our exploration business starts using the words, we created a training program for frontline leaders to intervene in safety. And you do remember that you did the needs analysis, you did the planning, you created an ecosystem for change, you were leading the intervention, you brought resources in, you prioritize where you start. and then they own the output. That is the ultimate greatness of a learning interventionist, because now they have taken from you what you have created and now they own it. That for me is the glory of L&D, when they speak your language.
All right. Thank you, Charlotte. And we have another question from convince management or leadership to buy in and allow learning to be done during work hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, buy-in is massively important. This comes back to speaking the culture and the language of the people that are asking for this. So they want the perfect staff, but they're not prepared to give the hours within the working day to deliver it. And that comes back to, I don't have time. And you have to say, well, if you don't have time now, you definitely won't have time in the future when the staff are continuing to underperform because they're underskilled. And it really boils down to almost like a weighing scale. What is more important here? Do you want better performing staff? Do you want more efficient staff? Do you want a better output? Or is 1 hour of that person's time more important to you? How much is that actually worth? How many losses you're actually making as a result of lack of training? You've got to talk their language when it comes to actually discussing it. They are seeing you very much as a nice to have, and we are very nice people, but we are fundamentally a need to have. So you have to talk their language to understand their problem, and you have to almost go toe to toe with them on this and be adamant in the success of what you can actually deliver. It isn't a case that they're going to sit in a room and be talked to and they're suddenly going to become greater people. They're going to learn new skills that they can use every single day, share with more people, and therefore have a better output. And if managers are against performing and better performing staff, then that's a fundamental problem with the manager and that discussion. So sometimes you have to negotiate, okay, how do we do this in the working day? Can we split it up into micro-learning? So it doesn't have to be a day-long workshop. I'm very much against day-long workshops. Micro-learning is best. Pick up, put down, pick up, put down. Much easier to integrate within the working day. And no way should a member of staff be developing themselves for work with work training outside of working hours. That is our job as an employee to deliver that to them.
Great. Let's go back to the question of what's broken. If, as a L&D practitioners, we want to solve a problem that line managers don't own, they will not create space for it. If we want to find out what's broken, we need to find out what's broken with the line managers. So embed yourself in the business. If you embed yourself in what they do, let's take a call center. If you are running a program for the call center agents in a bank, you need to understand what is broken with service of call centers, skills of call centers, knowledge of call centers, the frustrations of customers. When you know that, you distill it to, here is a solution for these 4 problems that are related to customer experience, that are related to revenue, that are related to customer retention. If you work that way with a problem they already have, they will look for you. But if you come with a course that you bought somewhere or you are now have thought about and it's a good to do, and you bring it and try to retrofit it into what they're doing every day, it's not going to move a dial that they're interested in. They're not going to get involved. And now you have to now ask. You've got to embed the solutions in what is broken in the business, what is broken for line managers, because they will look for you. An example was when I was doing that exact course, when I was leading training at that time in customer experience, we actually moved customer experience training from at that time it was physical training college, and we put it inside of the call centers, which means the call center agent that struggles with answering a call can log off, go to the corner for 1 hour, take a skills improvement process, come back, continue working. They don't have to be off for 8 hours going to a training college somewhere. So it got to that micro learning. It's got to be embedded in what they do every day and move a dial that the line manager is interested in. What's broken in the way the business works? That's the solution we need to create.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish we could continue. Hey, isn't time Geez, time is gone. It has stolen our session. I really wish we could continue because I see the discussions that are continuing to come in, and some more questions. What I encourage you, if your question has not been answered, I really encourage you to reach out to the panelists. I mean, they are available. If not through, you can reach out to them through this platform, either in the VIP lounge or in the lobby, and reach out to them and see if they can answer a question. If you don't have an opportunity during this conference, you can always reach out to them after the conference. Mm-hmm. Thank you very, very much for all your participation. We now need to go back into the main session for the wrap up. So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to leave this room. And once you've left the room, you can go back to stage and select the session where we will be summarizing and doing recommendations. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you, Dr. Gore. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you for the opportunity. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.